Hello and welcome to MetraAV Tech Tip Solutions. I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
And it's Friday.
Yes, it is.
And it's a rainy Friday.
I think it stopped. I think it finally stopped for us.
Don't believe it.
Well,
now,
it's Florida. So
for those of you who are watching us, what you can't see is that Adam and Stuart have been in a cleaning frenzy.
Yes.
In here, and there are 6 Gaylords, which is a large plastic container outside.
Yes.
Full of cleaning stuff, which is just absolutely awesome.
Yes. So.
But it has also given us an opportunity to discuss today's show.
Yep. Yep. And it actually has given us an opportunity to take a break because we have been working very hard cleaning a lot of stuff. Yes, exactly. So, with that said, today's topic that we are getting on to today is our CS-HDC5EXTSRPOE.
Extenders.
Basically what it is it's a 1080p HDMI over Cat6 extender is what it is. It's able to go up to 50 meters on a single Cat6.
Why are we talking about a 1080p extender in today's world?
Well, because honestly, it's still a valid thing. It's still used every day by a lot of people. And I'm not talking about people who haven't spent the money on a new TV. I'm talking about people who are just either don't care about 4K. They don't see a difference between 4K or 1080p, or the ones who don't need it. If we have a situation where you have a surveillance system where where the output of the surveillance is only 1080p, this is a brilliant solution for that.
Bars, distribution in churches, small schools.
Yep.
There's still a ton of this. In fact, I think this is our #1 selling product.
This is pretty darn close to our #1 selling product. It's definitely our #1 selling extender for HDMI, if for no other reason than it's a brilliant price point, and also because it fits the bill for most of what people actually need for an extender.
And it still works great, and it's a fairly straightforward installation.
Yep.
However, there's certain caveats because, and we discussed this on Wednesday about termination.
Yes.
Non-HD based T extenders do require a little bit more care.
Just a little bit extra focus put into it. So
diligence.
Yes. So Brent, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give us a top-down view, and actually,
can I do that?
Do you want to do it? Go
ahead.
There you go. You get to push the button. So, so this is the extender here. We'll go ahead and unbox it so everyone can see what's going on with this. Also, everyone who's watching, as always, if you have any questions about whatever it is that we're talking about, feel free to leave us a comment over in the chat section over there, or if you're watching this after the fact, you can leave us a comment down in the comment section below. So feel free to do that as well. But
oh, look, there's 2 of them.
There is 2 of them. So when you first open it up, you'll see here we've got the 2 units sitting on top. You've got a transmitter and a receiver. So we'll go ahead and take those out, and we'll come back to those here in just a second. You also have a user manual that comes with this.
Please read this. Please
do, because there's actually a really important part that we're going to come back to and talk about on the back side here.
There's a whole lot of coming back to.
Yeah, there is. On this page in particular, there is a grid here that'll tell you a couple different things to do with the dip switches on the transmitter. All right, so there's some dip switches right there. So these dip switches are an EDID selection. There's a set, I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different built-in EDID configurations.
And these are absolute problem solvers on a job site.
Yes. So use those. Use that manual to find out where to set the dip switches on the transmitter and have it set correctly.
By the way, while you're holding that up, why are there 2 HDMI ports on that unit?
Well, one's an HDMI in and one's an HDMI out. It's a loop out connection. So on the other side, you've got the Cat6, which we can, when we go through the actual unit itself, we can talk about those. But it is a loop out capable unit. So if you have a TV nearby the transmitter, you can loop out the video.
Or an AVR or a splitter if you're going other directions, or into a matrix. So a lot of flexibility.
Under the little plastic piece here, we've got some other accessories that come with the unit as well. There's a power supply. It's just a very straightforward 5-volt, 2-amp power supply. Which the other benefit to this system is that it is powered on one side. You actually power the transmitter.
PoE portion.
Yep. You power the transmitter, which then, of course, over the category wire, it will power the receiver as well.
By the way, while we're looking at this, receiver does not mean put it at the AVR.
No, correct. It means it receives the signal from the transmitter.
And we've had that call.
Yes, we have. So it also comes with an IR kit. Now this is an IR passback system, so you put the IR receiver at the receiver because this will pick up the signal from a remote at the television. And then, oh, pardon me, this one here.
Yes.
And then you use the blaster, and I say blaster specifically because this is not an emitter, this is a blaster, which means that you don't want to stick this directly to the piece of equipment.
Put it on the shelf in front of it, or on the back of a door. It is a high output blaster, and it will hit multiple products.
Yep, and it will also overdrive if you put it too close to the piece of equipment that you're trying to control. So let's go ahead and talk about the units here as well. Now these here come pre-installed with the rack or with the surface mount ears on the side of it,
which is nice.
Yep, and because honestly, in most cases you will be surface mounting this to something, so we decided to go ahead and just include those pre-installed for you. If you want to take them off for some reason, there are 2 screws here that you can take off on either side, and that will allow you to take those ears off if you want to. So we'll start with the transmitter system here. Like Brent was talking about, on the side we've got an HDMI in and an HDMI out, and in between those we have an EDID dip switch selector. Now, out of the box, it comes preset to all down, I believe. Let me double check my information on that. Yep, pardon me, all up. I did get that wrong. So out of the box, it comes preset to having all of those in the up position. We'll bring that a little bit closer here to the camera so you can see that. Now at that setting, that sets it to a 720p EDID information, so be aware of that.
Why is it set at 720p?
Well, it's the same reason why our matrices are set to a 1080p EDID, even though they can do 4K. Because if it's set to 720, more than likely it's going to work. Something is going to function the way that it's supposed to.
Pretty much any display out there is going to be able to support 720.
Now, in many cases, you won't need to mess with that too very often, but do yourself a favor, set it to the correct EDID for what you're trying to accomplish with the system, and set that dip switch for that. So, on the other side, we have an IR out, and like I said before, this is where you're going to plug in the IR blaster, because that's going to control the localized equipment that you're trying to control. Next to that, we have a Cat6 RJ45 port, where you're going to plug in for the Ethernet connection, leaving this unit going to the receiver.
Well, not Ethernet, but Ethernet terminal. Because
correct.
We are not an Ethernet system.
Correct. You're using a category wire, and you're using the RJ45 termination on it.
But don't go through network switches.
Brent, should we do 568A or B?
Oh, that's a good question. Adam, what are the performance differences between 568A and 568B?
Nothing.
Thank you.
It's exactly the same. However, in the manual, we do say 568,
we do.
568B in the manual.
And why?
Because we have to say something.
And if we didn't,
so
everybody
we would get the question. Yep. Next to that, we have a link LED and a reset button as well. Now, you use this reset button for troubleshooting, but also during installation. You'll hit that when you have everything plugged in, have the power all plugged in. You come here and hit that reset button first, and then you're going to go upstairs or wherever you have the receiver plugged in at the TV, and you're going to hit the length button after that. What that's going to do is it's going to have the system configure itself to the distance that you have on that category wire.
So it's going to auto EQ.
Correct. Now, Brent, how long should this go? How far can this one go?
Well, the question is not how far should it go. The real question is how not far should it go?
Yes. So the minimum distance on this system here is at least 45 feet. Really and truthfully, you really want to have it at about 50 feet. However, 45.
And by the way, Cat 6 needs to be longer than Cat 5e.
Because it's a better signal. Yes.
Better conductive. And what's the actual performance, the real performance difference between a Cat 5e and a Cat 6?
I mean, performance-wise?
Yes. I stumped you with this.
You did, yes.
It's not bandwidth, it's how far the bandwidth will go.
Sure.
So if you're running a Cat 6 cable, you know, this is the second time in 2 weeks.
So yes, so definitely, and we do say Cat 6 on this one. However, this does function with pretty much any Category 5 or 6 cabling. It really doesn't matter. With proper termination. Don't use the pass-through style terminals. Don't use any kind of punch downs in between. Don't do any couplers or anything like that. Do a straight shot all the way through. And
it is not HD base T,
correct.
So it is obviously substantially less expensive, but it also doesn't have some of the additional buffering and EQ capabilities built into HD base T.
Yes. Now the voltage or the power connection is next to the reset button, which is just a standard DC 5-volt power supply, and that of course does come in the box with the unit, and it is a 5-volt 2-amp power supply that comes with that.
Yeah, don't try to use the standard wall wart at 5-volt 1-amp.
Yeah.
Because you will starve it.
Yep, you do need to give it enough power for that. So once you've made the connection over there, you will now plug in the receiver. And on the receiver side, of course, we go in with the Cat 6. There is a link light here to tell you that whether or not it's connected and if it's receiving HDMI signal.
Now, in order to see HDMI signal, it must have both source and display connected.
That is correct.
To create the link.
Yes, correct.
If you just plug the devices in together, without a source and display, you're not going to see everything doing its job because there's not an HDMI signal.
Now look inside of the manual to tell you whether or not it needs to be solid or blinking, and what those mean. All that information is inside the manual, so you know for sure what's going on. Like I said before, we have the length button here as well. And then on the other side, we do have another 5-volt power insertion if you want to use it. However, it's really designed to be powered from the transmitter. We just give you an option here to add supplemental power to it. We have our HDMI out, and we have our IR in. Now, again, the IR in, this is where we're going to plug in our IR receiver at the television, or at the monitor, to go ahead and send that IR signal back to the transmitter side.
Now, on the IR functions, will this operate in conjunction with a standard IR system like Control4, Crestron, Xantec, Niles?
Only if you have the IR emitter from the control system stuck to the IR receiver of this IR receiver part.
In other words, an optically isolated system.
Yes, so do not take our CS-HDC5EXTSRPOE, which is the mono side and stereo side. Do not plug that into this piece here because that is a 12-volt system normally, either from a Control4, Crestron, a URC RTI. Savant is a 5-volt system, but I believe they have a different pin out, so you do not want to use them.
Data.
And a different, yep, exactly. So you don't want to have those plugged directly into this. If you were going to do anything, you're going to take the IR emitter from the control system, just stick it simply to the end of this piece here, which is the IR receiver, and have that plugged into that, and then that will handle everything else for you. Everything else from there will be good to go.
Aside from it not being visually attractive, it's actually a great way to do things because when you optically isolate it, we don't have to worry about any short spikes or other electrical miscommunications.
Yeah, it actually creates an air gap essentially between those two systems.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's great for grounding purposes. So the CS-HDC5EXTSRPOE is in stock. POE is in stock. So definitely reach out to your sales rep and or your distributor to find out availability and pricing. It is probably, I'm pretty sure this is our #1 selling extender still. So definitely check it out, the pricing and everything from your sales reps and your distributor. And Brent, we've already talked about where you would use this, but how else does it solve problems? Let's talk about the EDID selection on that.
Well, first off, EDID is still consistently one of the strangest things we deal with, and something that as an industry, a lot of guys are not comfortable with. So having the ability to take out the what do you want for lunch syndrome, meaning, well, what resolution do you want? Oh, I don't know, I can do this, this, and this. Okay, here's the answer. We're going to give you this. Can you take it? Yes, I can. Great, we work.
Yeah.
So by having the EDID selection on here, you eliminate all of the miscommunication, or a lot of it anyway, between the display and the source side.
It's kind of like catered lunch, isn't it? To where
you know what,
this is what you're getting.
I'm bringing in sandwiches and chips and Coke. Do you want one?
Yeah, that's basically what you're doing at that point. So like as we said before, definitely reach out to your sales rep and or your distributor to find out availability and pricing. This again is the CS-HDC5EXTSRPOE HDMI extender.
Not only do we have it written on the front here, but for the old guy like me,
we wrote it there on the side for you to be able to read, right?
Big fonts for me.
So definitely reach out to them, find out availability for that. It's a great unit if you're dealing with anything with 1080p or lower video resolution. And so definitely check it out for any job that you're working on.
Now, there is a 4K PoE also available.
There is, yes. Now, the differences between the 4K one and this one is that there is no EDID selection on that one. And also, it is 4K instead of 1080p, but it does go at least 50 meters, I believe. And in fact,
it's an excellent system.
Yeah. So definitely check this one out. It's available now. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us here on our tech support line, 386-492-8584. There you go. And or you can email me directly, adam.rogers@metraav.com, or
brent.mccall@metraav.com.
And if you need help with any kind of sales or anything like that, reach out to us. We can get you over to your sales rep for your area and or your distributor. So everyone, thanks for checking in with us today.
Have a great weekend. By the way, what's next week's Wednesday show?
Next week's Wednesday show is multi-source, multi-video, multi-resolution systems and how to wire them correctly.
It's a lot of multis.
Yeah, because there's a lot going on when it comes to something like that, and I can almost guarantee that almost everyone is doing it wrong, including us. We did it wrong. Yeah.
We've been there, done that, which is how we know these things.
Not only did we do it wrong, we did it wrong at Cedia. And I'll explain it.
I know, because who set up the system?
I set up the system, yes.
But you learned.
But I learned. So
have a great weekend. Remember,
reboot early.
Reboot often.
Don't cut your wires too short.
Turn off CEC.
And call tech support.
I'm Brent.
I'm Adam.
Have a great weekend.
We'll see y'all next time.